From the creators of Relevant Magazine, this is the Relevant Podcast.
There's no need to explain. I know what you want to say. But just say goodnight if you think that's alright. There's no need to explain. I know that we can relate. Can we get up and try to feel okay again?
Okay.
Tuesday, March 24th, the year is 2020. You're listening to the Relevant Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Tyler Huckabee. I'm coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. And today's episode is brought to you by the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. Wars, child labor, child brides, discrimination, poverty, even acts of nature. These are just some of the things keeping 264 million children out of school worldwide. Without education, nothing changes. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency says enough is enough. Visit adra.org/sign up to join ADRA's Every Child Everywhere in School campaign. ADRA, serving humanity so all may live as God intended. All right, we got a great show for you today. Chandler, unfortunately, self-quarantined, but he forgot his recording equipment, so he was unable to be here with us today, but we're in luck because our friend Clark Flippo will be our illustrious producer in his place. Hey, Clark.
His recording equipment is with me. What's up, everyone?
A power move, leveraging self-quarantine for his own professional gain. Meanwhile, up there in Loveland, Virginia, I don't know how he's doing with self-quarantine. We'll check him around that. It's our friend Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello. I am maintaining sanity at the moment. It's been weird, guys. It's been weird. But hey, we do have a great, I'll say this. The guests that we have today really encouraged me and gave me some perspective on this whole situation. Tyler, we talked to Judah Smith later.
Yeah,
about how, not to be ruled by fear, about helping people, kind of in the era of social distancing and isolation. Great, encouraging interview. People are going to stick around for that. And I can't personally guarantee, because I don't know the emotional disposition of everyone listening, but I can almost guarantee you will feel way better after hearing this interview.
Oh, that's good. Can I ask you guys, Jesse and Clark, can I ask y'all, what's your quarantine fit? What's the at-home dress code for you? Now we're all guys who are used to working at home.
Yeah.
It's disruptive in a lot of ways, but obviously we're not, we're kind of old, we're vets at this. We're old pros. Yeah. We were built for this. Do you still get dressed, and is it more or less or about the same than you would if it was if we had an office situation?
It's pretty much, it's basically the same. It's jeans, t-shirt, hoodie, hat. I will say this, and I'm sure you guys can relate. Different states have introduced new policies, and one policy that went in Virginia just this week was that what they're calling non-essential businesses are asked to be closed. Yeah. And among those that the government has deemed non-essential are places where people get their hair cut. And so that means, I'm dealing with a little bit of a, the hairs, I already kind of have a little bit of a shaggy style, but it's getting long, guys. And I don't know when.
I'm looking at you, and it's getting a little bit. It's not like long. Like you don't look like Tarzan yet, but it's bushier than it usually is.
It's not like Legolas. It's not like Lord of the Rings Legolas status yet. But but who knows how long this quarantine will be, and how that's been my main challenge. So I like to wear hats a lot anyway, just because I find them very convenient. And so I've been sliding one of those on, so I don't really have to worry about the length of hair. Tyler, I see yours is getting a little shaggy. Clark, you have the hat on. Are you guys seeing this as one of the primary obstacles here that we're going to have to deal with? Looking a
little long, Clark, a little longer than usual. Yeah. So here's I've thought about this, Jesse, and I'm glad you brought this up. I think that, and I've seen some of this on social media. This is not an original thought to me, but I feel like the day is going to come for a lot, not all, and maybe not even most, but for a lot of women in self-quarantine, where they're finally going to crack and they're going to be like, today's the day. I'm cutting my own bangs, and they're just going to go the bet. It's something I don't understand it. It's not a guy thing, but I feel like it's something that is sort of a temptation sometimes for women when they get bored and they need to switch things up and inject a little drama into the home quarantine situation, whether it's with a family or roommates or by themselves. They're going to cut bangs for the fellas.
Yeah.
I don't know what our version of bangs is, but I'm worried that we're going to find out, and I'm worried that it's not going to be pretty.
I don't think it's going to be pretty either. I have two takes. One, it's going to be just a hodgepodge of homemade haircuts. Like I've already asked my wife, I'm like, hey, can you start watching YouTube videos? Like, how hard could this be? Like, maybe you could just give me a little trim up. The other thing is just ordering shears off Amazon. The other prediction I have is coming out of quarantine, whether, if it's going to be a few more weeks of this, who knows how long? It could be a few months. I don't know. But I feel like especially dudes are going to be coming out of quarantine with one of two looks. One is just like long, unkempt, shaggy hair. The other is shaved heads because they just ordered shears off Amazon and they're just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to do what I did in 6th grade. It was easy enough then. It'll be easy enough now. That's my prediction. But I also, dude, I feel so, I know there's some, relief programs out there, but I do think, look, if you go to a hair place, if you get your hair did at the kind of the same place, and you have a relationship with the people that cut your hair, or other sorts of services like that, dude, hit them up and buy some gift cards right now. Like when all this is over, you're gonna need to go get a haircut anyway. Help them out, man. Order up some gift cards, keep them afloat, because that's got to be tough to be in one of those types of businesses right now.
I really think it is. And there's obviously, we all have only, so much extra cash right now. And some of us have significantly less now than we did just a few weeks ago. So you got to pick the ways that you're going to spend that money and who you're going to help keep afloat. But I hope everybody is at least looking at their budget and thinking of ways that they can creatively distribute a little bit of their extra money for people who are especially hard hit right now, which does include people who cut hair. I'd be happy to hear from, if we have any listeners who are in the hair or salon industry, about any tips that they would have for ways that we could help keep them afloat until things click back to normal and the fellows start going back to get their hair cut again.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys about is getting out, and observing the CDC guidelines for social distancing and doing our part here to stop the spread of this coronavirus. But
we still have to go out occasionally. We still have.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get some fresh air.
Essential errands. Yeah.
Yeah, in a lot of places in the country, you're still allowed to go for a walk and stuff, And I went to a state park on Saturday thinking, cool. it's just hundreds of miles of open trails in the forest. It'll be no problem. It'll be no problem taking the fam there, something to do, we're within the guidelines. It was so stressful because every trail, you got joggers coming.
It's like a video game.
Yeah. It's like people jogging by. It's like, bro, 6 feet, 6 feet. Okay. I understand you're on a jog. I'm on a walk. I get it, man. This trail's only so big, but come on, let's do our part. And you're eyeballing every person. Right. Like, does this person respect it? Does this person respect it? Yeah. I don't know who's respecting, who's not. And I didn't. It was usually spending time in the forest with your family on a nice afternoon is a very tranquil experience.
Right.
This, it was like it was like a line at Disney World just dumped into the trail. And it was like, oh gosh, everyone just back up. Just give me, I broke off a branch from a tree and was just waving it around. Like, back up. And I was like, I was poking in the direction of people like a spear. Like, don't come to me. 6 feet. This stick is 6 feet.
There's a 3-hour line to the waterfall.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what I decided for the good of everyone. And this isn't going to be popular. This isn't going to win me any new fans or anything out there. But I didn't get into this game for the popularity points. So sorry who this offends. But I decided yesterday while I was going on a run, and I had to dodge a lot of other park goers, that if your little kid is out there, then that's just then apparently kids are invincible to this thing. And I'm just not going to be able to abide by the 6-foot rule with them. They're invincible. They were born. They're apparently their immune systems for some reason just can kick coronavirus out with no problem. And so that's the only way I've found to be able to safely social distance while I'm outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tricky. I've gone for walks in the neighborhood where they have nice wide streets. It's far easier. I don't live in like a super dense area. It's not like I live in, if you see these videos, people like in Italy or Paris or even now in New York, and they're stuck in these, smaller apartments. That's got to be tough.
Population dense. Yeah. That does really have to be hard. I've got family in Chicago, and even that, Chicago's it's not the same thing as living obviously in Beijing or something like that, where it's been especially hard hit, but it is a smaller, more population dense area than where we're all at, certainly than I'm at here in Nashville. So we're thinking of everyone and praying for y'all, and we're trying to do our best to bring you some helpful voices, some encouraging voices, and certainly informative voices that'll help us get through all this faster and flatten the curve. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're doing slices. You're listening to Time. It's by Childish Gambino. At the beginning of the podcast, you heard Okay. It's by Wallows. All right, time for our weekly look back at some of our favorite stories at the intersection of faith and culture that came across our desks this week. It's time for
Slices.
Jesse, what'd you bring this week?
All right, I got a two for guys. As you guys know, a lot of people are attending church online right now.
Mm-hmm.
The coronavirus crisis has, created a situation where, churches that may not typically be used to streaming their messages online are trying to figure out ways to do that, to stay connected to their parishioners. Not every church has like a sweet mega church setup where they can just blast high quality sermons in people's homes. There are a lot of preachers who are just trying to figure it out. Maybe they got the iPhone propped up, they got the MacBook with some FaceTime, going. They're figuring it out. But figuring it out is not without its risk. You can just ask a vicar in England. He works with he's a vicar with the Church of England. His name is Reverend Stephen Beach. And Reverend Beach decided to do what a lot of pastors are doing and, do his message online for his followers. And, here's the challenge with not just with pastors. This is what everyone who's now working from home is concerned themselves with, is like, okay, my coworkers, my friends, different people are going to see inside my home. How do I angle the camera on my computer to actually make my home presentable? Right? How does it look like this is actually a place of work and not a bedroom with 5 laundry baskets, laid everywhere, and a cool fort that I made for myself because I'm in quarantine and slowly losing my mind. And so, but you see this with some of these pastors who don't have, like I said, the mega church setup and are trying to broadcast from their home. How can they make it look like reverent and something that people would want to engage with? I mean, you're going to sit there and stare at them for, half an hour while they teach you something from the Bible. And so, Reverend Beach, man, A for effort, because he is in his office, what appears to be some sort of home office. And he also has like candles lit in the background, like I understand in part in his tradition, the candles are a very significant part of the ceremonial aspects of the service, but he's doing it in his office. I feel like if he didn't have the candles to call him, people would give him a little grace. But no. He's like, no, I'm doing it with excellence. And he has the camera set up, and he's from the Church of England, and he's dressed what I picture most English adult men of his age wear, which is a shirt and tie and a collared shirt with a sweater on top. I think whether you're royalty or whether you're the neighborhood butcher, that's just what you wear in the evenings in the UK. Am I, like maybe you can get away with a soccer jersey early in the morning while you're having a cup of coffee, but after midday hits, you slide into the necktie, even if you're working from home, the necktie, the collar, and a sweater. You're a British old man, that's what I assume you wear. And I assume they all have canes, even if they have no walking problems. It's just what you do if you're a British man of a certain age. At least that's my perception of it. Hopefully I'm not offending any of our English listeners. But anyway, so the vicar, Reverend Beach, he's leaning in, closely looking at the camera when the candlelight catches his sweater on fire. And this is why this man is going to be one of the primary new voices who are speaking spiritual truth into my life, because the poise with which he addresses this situation just gave me calm during the storm. Why don't we play a clip?
Well, welcome back to the last part of our online worship experience from St. Jude Parish Church. The last section we call waiting, and it's a great thing to pause in the presence of God and to ask the question, Lord God, what are you saying to us? And then, of course, to wait for an answer. I've just been pausing between these. Oh dear, I just caught fire. Oh my word.
Oh dear, I've just caught fire.
Right.
if I am he is literally on fire. Okay.
Right.
And we're watching him teach.
Oh,
and it takes him a second to notice that he is on fire. And my reaction would be like, I'm on fire. And I'd be, jumping, somebody help me, total freak out. This man, this is how poised of a spirit. This is a shepherd. This is a shepherd who you would be comfortable being a part of his flock, because his reaction is simply, oh dear, I've caught on fire. Even that has this bit of folksy, Dickens-esque whimsy. Even if you catching on fire, you're able to express with that sort of calm and poise. That's a spiritual leader right there, guys. That is
That's
someone
the kind of person you want. You want their hand at the helm of the ship, because if fire doesn't move, if fire doesn't get you to panic, nothing will. That is the bar.
If you can
that's
literally
the absolute gold standard of maintaining calm in the face of a crisis,
being set on fire.
Right.
And being totally chill about it. So don't worry, he was just fine. He later did a report with Sky News in the UK and said that
good.
Yeah, he ended up surviving. But even if he didn't, I think he'd be pretty chill. Oh my, I'm burning to death alive. Oh dear. Cheerio. No, he's just fine. So anyone that's doing home church, just be careful with the candles. If you're looking at the camera, it's hard to look at the open flame right in front of your very, very flammable fuzzy sweater. So
and
that is
the new internet challenges for all the kids who are doing it. Set yourself on fire and see how calmly you can react to it while putting it out. That's the game. That's the game. It's the trend. Post your videos with hashtag I'm on fire.
Get push-ups,
and do it. Yeah, and do it while you eat Tide Pods.
Can't see. This feels like a win. This feels like an absolute. This feels like an absolute great craze that we're not going to look back on with any regrets.
Yeah.
While eating Tide Pods, set yourself on fire. And while you're preaching the gospel, preach the gospel at all the times when necessary. Set yourself on fire and eat a Tide Pod. Okay, I think that's the old saying. All right, slice number 2, Tyler. I know you know the answer to this one, so I'm going to pose this question to you, Clark. Overall, what percent of practicing Christians self-report using their smartphone while listening to a sermon? What percent?
I'm going to say, I think it'd be at least kind of high, right? 45%. 50%,
a little high. Tyler, you know the answer to this. This comes from Barna's State of the Church
I wrote
study.
the answer down a while back, but but I'm not sure I can remember it off the dome.
What do you think? You're in a church and you're looking around during the sermon. How many people are on their phone?
I think that the grand total people that I would see on their phone at your average church service would be 5%?
17%.
17%.
17% report using their smartphone while they're in a sermon. Now, about half of those say are just straight up checking emails, Twitter, and text. Right. I mean, that's, scrolling Instagram. We've all been there, haven't we? Where you open up your phone to be like, yeah, I'll just follow along here on my YouVersion app. And you're really just scrolling. You turn the brightness down. As soon as the brightness goes down on someone's phone, they're not following along with the sermon. They're goofing around. They're setting their fantasy lineup or they're looking at, they're on the gram. Another half of those, this is what they say. This is what they say. And the highest majority of this group are millennials. About half of those that say they look at their phones during the sermon, they claim that they are fact checking the sermon in real time. And the highest majority of those fact checkers are millennials. Okay.
Sounds like you've got a few thoughts here.
Well, look, we're in journalism. I understand the value of fact checking. I understand the impulse to fact check. And I understand that, a lot of pastors, it's a good exercise to fact check them. I don't believe it. No one's fact checking in the sermon. Like, you go look at it later. The pastor never says something. And you're like, oh, gotta double it. Even if you found like, if he was like, hey, did you know that in the, I don't even say, remember like the 1040 window was the thing in missions. Like, there are 17 million people, the 1040 window, who have never heard the name Jesus Christ. And if like no one in the sermon's like, is that right? Googling it. And it's like, it's only 15 million. Like, no one's fact checking. People who say those millennials that claim they're fact checking the sermon in real time, they're not even paying attention to the sermon. Trust me, I've been one of those. Again, we're lowering the brightness and we're doing other things. And if someone looks over and be like, hey, why are you on your phone? You'd be like, fact checking, man. Accountability, bro. Accountability. And it's like, no. I am reading an article, or on Reddit looking at a funny GIF, or watching this poor vicar set himself on fire on a loop. There's no way anyone's fact checking. I listen, Barna does incredible research, and I have no reason to dispute what they say, but I do question my fellow millennials who self-report fact checking sermons.
Self-reporting, you think that they are too embarrassed, presumably, to admit what they're actually doing on their phones during the sermon. So in an effort to appear more like they're paying actually better attention than they are, they're just saying
what facts are they checking? What facts are they checking? They put Bible verses on the screen. Like, I have no reason to dispute. Like, is the Bible verse on the screen wrong? Like, is there some big conspiracy here that you got to look these up? Everything's on the screen. What kind of facts? What kind of facts is your pastor throwing out there that you have to fact check?
No, that's where I don't know, but I will take issue with that, because we have all been in sermons where the pastor says something, gives a stat clearly made up on the spot. Like, did you know that 150% of teens today have prayed to the devil, have said that it's always, there's a lot of like doom and gloom about the kids, what the kids are doing, and society's on like a roller coaster with no brakes towards that sort of thing. Is, I was raised around that, and I could see if, I think we're all fortunate not to go to churches where the pastors are hyper, or we used to go to churches. Remember those? Those were the days where pastors aren't like to use hyperbole, but I can understand somebody every now and then being something like, I don't know if that one checks out.
So in your scenario, the pastor's like, everyone turn to your right. Everyone turn to your left. Both of those people later this afternoon, according to my research, will be engaging in Ouija board games. Ouija boards. It's like, all right, well, better Google that Ouija board. Person to my right, I guess so. Just wait till after the service, because once you fire
That's
up.
true.
Here's the thing: once you fire up the phone, even if it's
That's
to look
true.
up a Bible verse, or even if it's to fact check a pastor stats, you're not just shutting down the phone after you get the information. You're suddenly on a Twitter thread debating the best and worst movies in the MCU, like that that literally happened. So maybe just put the phones down. That's all.
I think that's a good idea. I think the one other time I can imagine using a phone to fact check the pastor is when the pastor does all right, every head bowed, every eye closed. Now, if you just made a commitment tonight, I want you to raise your hand. Nobody's looking. It's like, we've all been here, right?
I see.
I see. Thank you. I see. And in your head, you're going, I don't know, man. You just saying, I see you, thank you. I don't know. You could hold up your phone just a little bit, turn the front facing camera on, and that would allow you to sort of Ethan Hunt like inspect your surroundings to see you can't see faces, their heads are down. This is not a breach of integrity.
No.
You're just looking for the hands.
And that's why the savvy evangelists have abandoned that. And they're like, I just need you to conspicuously look up at me and make eye contact. And then he's just pointing. I see you over there. Over there, I see you. You, yes, you, got you. you, yep, I see you.
Keep 'em guessing.
And it's like, how would anyone know? Like, and in likelihood, you're going to get counted in there, because whenever I'm in that scenario, Tyler, I do the exact same thing. It's like, I got to take a little peek up and see if there's other people making eye contact. And then all of a sudden, I accidentally make eye contact. He's like, I see you. And I'm like, I just got saved again. And I was trying to fact check. I was just fact checking. Now I got saved again.
So my slice is about something that happened over the weekend. Well, for folks in the U.S., it was over the weekend. And it concerns our friends over at the Catholic Church. So did you guys see how Pope Francis, the announcement that he made in light of the pandemic? So
this was surprising to me.
This was surprising, but I have kind of I have more than one hot take on it. We'll see how well they hold up. So obviously, during this time when self-isolation is being encouraged everywhere, especially in Italy, where the Vatican is, there's a lot of things that have to be adjusted, and the church is adjusting some of its own guidelines, including the sacraments. Obviously, people are not able to get to confession right now. They're not able to go to Mass. Now, Pope Francis encouraged Catholics not to worry, assuring them that they can, quote, go to God directly. He said, this is the right time, the opportune moment, an act of contrition done well, and our souls will become white like the snow. He went on to say, quote, but many people today would tell me, Father, where can I find a priest, a confessor, because I can't leave the house? And I want to make peace with the Lord. I want him to embrace me. I want the Father's embrace. Pope Francis went on to say, do what the Catechism says. It is very clear. If you cannot find a priest to confess to, speak directly with God, your Father, and tell him the truth. Say, Lord, I did this, forgive me, and ask for a pardon for your heart. Now, he's referring to this in the Catechism where it says, quote, this is a little long, when it arises from a love by which God is loved above all else, contrition is called perfect. Contrition of charity. Such contrition remits venial sins. It also obtains forgiveness of mortal sins if it includes the firm resolution to have recourse to sacramental confession as soon as possible. So basically what the Catechism says is, if you can't find a priest, if you can't get to confession, the Catholic Catechism says you can go to God directly to confess your sin, and then go to confession basically when you can, when you're able to. The same thing was offered by the Vatican for sort of what sounds like what they called group absolution, meaning bishops can offer sort of mass absolution for groups of people affected by the pandemic, like people who die of COVID-19 before they can get absolution, or healthcare workers who maybe can't leave the hospital, who are on the front. So that can be offered now as sort of a group deal instead of individually. So I understand, and I saw a lot of people doing this. Here's my take on this. I saw a lot of people doing this, saying like, well, Martin Luther's vindicated 500 years later, or this is exactly what he's always what Protestants have been saying all this time. Martin Luther was right after all. But do you feel like maybe if it's actually in the it doesn't sound like Pope Francis created this new rule out of thin air for the times. It sounds like there was something that was in the catechism that has always been in the Catholic catechism that he was pointing out and saying the church has provisions for times like this, and has always had these provisions, and just letting people, which seems like a very like normal and even kind of laudable thing to have. Like there's a safeguard for times like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I guess I think
I'm not a Catholic, so I don't want to. And if we have any Catholic listeners who want to call in and correct me on this, I'd be happy. I received that correction.
Yeah, and that's an important preference that we're all, the three of us are Protestants. Obviously, we don't, but I think that's a matter of sort of region and tradition. All three of us grew up in areas and in family dynamics that they attended Protestant churches, not Catholic churches. So that it's not like we're not Catholic out of principle. It's I think I'm speaking. I can somewhat safely speak for all of us in saying that our just experience growing up was Protestant. And so ideas like confession, like for me, to be quite honest, confession, my main understanding of it is in pop culture because it's in, it's a great plot device. You know what I mean? The confession is like it offers
expository tool.
Precisely. Like it allows characters to reflect on actions and reveal things about the past to the audience in a way that's not cheesy. It's sort of become a trope in some, especially in like crime movies, but I will say this, I've always been sort of fascinated by confession, and I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know the rules, but I've actually wanted to go to confession before. Not that I had like some specific sin or transgression that I wanted to get off my chest. I just wanted to see what the experience was like. Right. You know what I mean? Because for Protestants, when we the Bible says, confess your sins one to another, but there's no like formal setting for it. And so as a Protestant, if I'm like, well, I can confess my sin to any of my friends or a pastor or anyone who's like a Christian, I can confess, but there's no great time for it if you're a Protestant. Right. Like there's no time like, hey, like just hanging out with one of your buds and be like, hey, listen, we're having a great time. And this is it's super cool hang session. Yeah, we'll play some Fortnite or whatever. But hey, listen, I would like to confess a couple deep, dark sins to you real quick. And, this is the Protestant way. And it's like, or even like after Bible study, or even if it's a setting like that, or after church, where it's like, okay, church has ended. This is the place I should confess my sins to somebody. Who's doing that? Who's just walking up to somebody in the lobby? Oh man, great message today. I fact checked it the whole time. So it's really those stats I can promise were only lightly embellished this week. Hey, anyway, I got some things I need to get off my chest and confess to you. Can we just step over there by the Sunday school area? You know what I mean? Like Protestants haven't really left any margin for confession or made it any sort of like actual practice that I feel like people regularly do. Usually when there's a confession, it's either because like someone's feeling really bad about something, or they're about to get caught, or there's some sort of like intervention or say, you know what I mean? Like it's not a regular part of spiritual practice. And that's kind of made me appreciate Catholicism and the idea of the practice.
For sure.
But, obviously it's cool to see them being lenient about it, but but the Pope's still communicating, hey, look, man, this is still an important thing. Just because of the coronavirus and self-isolation doesn't mean you shouldn't still do this. And so that's kind of that's sort of my take on it, is like, I think this is positive, but I hope it stays a part of, the practices of a major Christian denomination, because it seems very valuable to me.
Yeah. And I think that it shows like the validity of it shows here. And they were we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Remember when Bethel first sent out their their recommendations to stop sending some of it, because they are kind of known up there in the Northern California area for occasionally going into hospitals and laying hands on people and praying for them.
Yeah.
And then they released a statement saying they were going to advise people to stop doing that. And a lot of people dunked on them because it seemed ironic that Bethel would no longer be going in to pray for sick people because of a pandemic. And in that case, they were in this no-win PR situation, which is sort of the same thing that the Catholic Church is in now, where if they had told people to keep going to confession, well, that's not good because that's violating self-isolation guidelines. But not doing it means admitting that Martin Luther was right. And instead, I feel like they had a really great response, which is, we've prepared for this. And this is certainly not the first pandemic that the Catholic Church has had to weather. It's one of the few institutions that can claim to have been around for pretty much all of them. So I think they've had to deal with this before and have come up with some guidelines for it. And I think I wish that, I won't name any names here, but I think there are some evangelical churches here in the U.S. that could have stood to learn a thing or two about the importance of following self-isolation guidelines on Sunday instead of insisting people continue to do business as normal.
Yeah, for sure. And while we're on the message of confessions, I have one. I acted like this Sunday I was fact-checking the sermon the entire time, and I was literally just catching up on Tiger King, that new bonkers Netflix show. And honestly, who can blame me? So I feel way better now that I've gotten that off my chest. So thank you, guys. Thank you. What is my penance?
I can't. That's not my. We're already out of my depth here. But
I think
it's a pretty cool show.
I think it's to finish watching Tiger King.
It's a pretty cool
because it's getting dark. It's getting dark.
On to Fortnite.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for
Slices.
Stay tuned when we come back. Judah Smith joins us. You're listening to Strangers by Mount Joy. Well, Judah and Chelsea Smith are the founders and lead pastors of Churchome, a mega church that is innovating in the virtual church space with an app that allows users to join worship services from their phones, participate in guided prayers, and meet other Christians from around the world. They were a little ahead of the curve on that one, as a matter of fact. We recently spoke with Judah about virtual church in the era of coronavirus and how Christians can love their neighbors while still practicing social distancing. Jesse, you got to talk to Judah. How did it go?
It was awesome, man. I always get really encouraged talking to Judah. You know, I told him this towards the end of the interview. You know, he's just someone who, no matter what the circumstances are, he has such an optimistic and encouraging disposition all the time. And he's also, you know, the one thing I think people may not appreciate about him is how into technology and analytics he is to try to understand impact.
Interesting.
You know, and if you've been on the Churchome app, you know, like you said, Tyler, they are a bit ahead of the curve there. You know, they not only do like online church services and sermons and things like that, but also have like guided prayers and ways for you to meet other Christians. And so I really wanted to know his perspective on how he thinks when we come out on the other side of this coronavirus crisis, how it's going to impact not just culture long term, but how it's going to impact the church, you know, in profound ways for a very long time. And here's what he had to say.
We are currently in a revolution. And I don't mean that to be dramatic or demonstrative or emotional. I mean that because I think there is a lot of things that we're not being honest about in terms of our connectivity, in terms of face-to-face, in terms of relationship. For instance, if I could pick on my own kind, I think preachers, communicators, public figures, leaders, we are very ironically involved in this equation. We're very ironically involved in some of the statistics and the readings, meaning I got a lot of pastor friends and we're all really good at telling stories and preaching and communicating and sharing concepts and ideas and principles and ancient scripture. And yet oftentimes we are not practicing things like deep, meaningful, authentic, genuine, transparent relationship. Oftentimes pastors of churches don't have a true, authentic, genuine friend within the own church that they pastor, preach to, and lead. And I think these are the kinds of things we're going to have to rethink. And I think right now, as we're all in what is essentially a global quarantine, it's just causing us to ask some really important questions. And not the least of which is, what's the point of this life? What really matters? Losing loved ones. I know several people now that are my friends that have been diagnosed. They have the virus, and now it's like getting them treatment. What will this look like? Can this affect them long term? All of these things we're learning simultaneously is at very least bringing us to the conclusion that the thing that matters most in the world is love and relationship. I mean, hands down, without question, we have to come to that conclusion and then kind of move from that baseline. Hopefully that's a baseline we've always had, but sometimes it feels like it's one that's being reintroduced to us. Love, relationship. Now we build from there. Love of God, relationship with God, love with each other, relationship, And so I think we're in a revolution, man. I'm not trying to be dramatic. There's enough drama as there is right now because this is absolutely so intense and so unparalleled and uncharted and unheard of. But I think that's the reality of where we are. The church is going to change. I certainly hope that it does. And we're only going to get better at, ensuring that people are connecting on a real level with God and with each other.
I thought those were really, really interesting insights. And I do think there's going to be a lot more people that are going to find ways to engage with the church online following this pandemic. But it was interesting, too, because unsurprisingly, one of the top guided prayers that were in the Churchome app this week was about letting go of fear. The guided prayers app, the guided prayers function on this app are very cool in that, they're, 10, 12 minutes long. And it's very kind of a meditative experience. Judah reads a prayer that you can kind of pray along with a little kind of teaching. Each one's about a different topic. And so it's probably not surprising that one about letting go of fear was trending this week. And I wanted to ask him, straightforward, how can we deal with fear right now? Because I feel like that is one of, there's such uncertainty about what the next couple of weeks are going to look like, but also what the future is going to look like long term. What's going to happen to the economy? What's going to happen to people's health? And so I wanted to ask him really flatly, as a Bible teacher, what's his thoughts on fear?
The reality is fear is going to touch us all. I mean, that's the reality. And I think this idea that somehow if you have enough faith, fear won't touch you. I don't think in any way, shape, or form that is the teachings of Jesus. I do not believe that our faith is this thing that somehow faith keeps you from ever feeling the effects of fear. We live in a fallen world. We live in a planet, by definition, that's been subject to futility. There's going to be pain. There's going to be pestilence. There's going to be disease. There's going to be mysteries, things that are outside of our control. Good things are going to happen to really bad people. And really, really bad things are going to happen to really, really good people. There's going to be mystery on this planet. And so as a result, we're all going to feel fear. I think the denial of fear is certainly not going to set us in motion or on the path to faith and strength and courage and love. I do think a lot of it comes down to your definition of faith. My definition of faith is divine persuasion. I think that I have faith. And I thank God for that faith. I think that faith falls in the gift category. I think that I can respond to the faith, but I think God has persuaded me. And I think we're really passionate at Churchome. First of all, 2 years ago was our vision. Hey, what if we could do church at home? What if we could be even more fiscally responsible? What if we could spend thousands and reach millions rather than spending millions to reach thousands? Like what if we could rethink? What if we didn't care who got the credit? What if we didn't care about counting all the numbers and who gets to say who belongs to which church? What if we were just passionate about people living in community and knowing Jesus and loving like him? All those what ifs. And I think it gets back to, during this time of fear, what my prayer is, God, persuade me again. And I think that's a beautiful prayer. Just like, God, you persuaded me before that you were real and you're big and you're strong and you're powerful. You persuaded me that I'm on my way to immortality, that I'm going to spend the afterlife with you. I'm going to be with you forever and ever without end. So now persuade me again in this short stay here on earth with all these pains and problems and mysteries and diseases and viruses that we don't apparently have any vaccine for at this point. God, persuade me that you're with me, that you love me, that you accept me, that I'm righteous, I'm in your family. And while I'm having distance with friends and community, remind me that you are not far and you are near and you are with me. And I think that's my passion right now, is to get the message out. Hey, God is big enough to comfort us, to persuade us, to meet us, to encounter us. And I believe people can experience his real love and a sense of his reality in the room, wherever you are. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to share and encourage people around. And it is a wild time, and fear is going to touch us all to an extent.
And guys, I don't know if you have run into this too, but there seems to be a major tension happening right now. And Tyler, I know this is something that you and I have talked about. In the early church, when pandemics and plagues would sweep through Rome, the way that the Roman Empire dealt with it was they cast sick people out into the streets, and everyone else stayed home. And it was often Christians that would go and care for them. And that's sort of how they developed their reputation. You've read and talked a lot about that this week, Tyler.
Yes, I have. I think it's something that I'm very passionate about, is the church has a voice of moral authority that says no one will be sacrificed for the greater good. The greater good is rescuing every life.
And, you look at, Jesus in the Bible going outside the city gates to hang with the lepers, who at that time were cast out of the city for those same reasons, because they were infected with a contagious disease that no one wanted to catch. Right. And so there's a little bit of a tension there when we look at the Christian tradition of, Christians, really not being fearful in the face of a pandemic, but going out to serve those people who are suffering ill, who are ill, knowing that they might infect themselves. But, right now there's a lot of discussions about the best way that you can love your neighbor to a certain degree. And I say neighbor in a broad sense, is by practicing social distancing, by kind of self-isolation to prevent the spread of this virus and not pass it to someone who's immune compromised or elderly or particularly susceptible to facing long-term health problems because of it. So there's certainly a tension there. So I wanted to ask you directly about that. How can we, observe the calling of Christians to help others by also kind of observing these CDC guidelines, which recommend us practicing physical distance from people? And I thought his answer was really profound.
There's this concept that if you look at church history, Christians are famous in regards to love and how we've expressed our love. Obviously not perfectly, not flawlessly. There's been a lot of really difficult historical moments in church history where the church actually has used the name of Jesus to control, manipulate, marginalize, etc. But there's much history that records for us, I think, for our admonition that where there is pain, where there's problem, we move towards it. And I think there is quarantines going on. For instance, I'm currently in Los Angeles, and the governor has spoken again, as have many of the local mayors. Hey, listen, we're asking you to stay inside unless it is absolutely categorically essential that you go somewhere, such as the hospital or food or water. And so we're effectively on, one of the largest states in the United States of America is now we are all asked to stay in our homes, right? So it's wild. It's this moment of going like, whoa, how does this work? We have ministries and outreaches within our church to people that don't have homes, people that don't have food. How do we minister? How do we get those people those resources? And I think that's something that if anyone has the exact answer for, they're not being incredibly honest and truthful. I think it's something we're going to have to navigate. I feel like the world's changing by the hour. The world's changing by the minute. The state of things are changing. I think it's important for us to honor those that we have put in decision-making roles for our cities, our states, and our countries, while at the same time making every effort we can, led by the love of Jesus and the grace of God, to add value to people. So how are we going to do that? What are innovative ways that we can do that? How can we spread love? I'll just be honest, I've had more interaction with my neighbors over the last few days, just quote unquote over the fence. How are you? Are you good? We love you. How can we, again, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but, asking our friends, our neighbors, literally my next door neighbor, and our homes are very close to each other. So it's like, hey, are you good on toilet paper? Are you good on water? I was outside yesterday. My neighbor across the way, I didn't even know, that they knew Jesus, and they were like, we love the broadcast today. Our church's doors are closed. Thank you for being open. And her name's Ashley. And I was like, whoa, Miss Ashley, thank you so much. I had no idea that you knew I was a pastor, that you knew I was a preacher. Thank you for watching. So, I think, I'm going to be really bold. I think Christians were really we're kind of known for the big systemized outreaches we do. And that's great. There's so much validity there. But I wonder if sometimes we underplay and overlook a wave, a hello and a hi to a neighbor from our front door. Are you okay? Love you, thinking about you. I know this sounds radical, but what if instead of all Christians everywhere in our country right now or around the world who are like, man, I wish I could go to church or do a ministry or do evangelism or go on a mission trip. Wait a minute. What if we found out the names of our neighbors? What if we just let them know that we're available? If they need anything, we'd love to help them and serve them. And while at the same time try to uphold, some of the stipulations and asks of our government to not spread this disease. I still think there's so many innovative things we can do. They often read very small and seemingly insignificant, but I think they're very important, powerful. And obviously, if you start thinking in the terms of millions of us spreading love, care, and concern like this, I think we'll be shocked at the impact.
Judah, there, talking about the power of a wave, the power of a little gesture to people that are your neighbors, kind of checking on people who are elderly. There's a lot of ways to do small things that make a big impact without jeopardizing people's health. Finally, like I was saying earlier, one great thing about talking to Judah, he's a very encouraging dude, and he wants to leave people, feeling better, not worse. And, I asked him, what is his message of encouragement? And I want you to hear his thoughts, but I really like the idea of, listen, if we believe we serve a sovereign God, if we believe we are born for such a time as this, that means each one of us right now, we're meant to be born in the year 2020. We're meant to be on earth when the earth is humanity is facing a situation like this, not because God wants to punish us, but because he wants us to be his voice and his hands and feet while people are suffering. Here's how Judah explained it.
We got to believe that there is a God who designed us and knew that we would live in 2020. There's a reason I wasn't born in 1920. There's a reason I wasn't around for the Great Depression. Are we going into a Great Depression? I certainly hope not. But if the economy struggles, I have to believe that my designer and creator, he appointed me, he handpicked me, he chose me, he called me, he gifted me, he's going to strengthen me and give me what I need. He's already given me what I need to live in 2020 and to go through this pandemic. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through it. We have to go through it. We're going to go through it. And so I'm telling myself every day, I'll probably talk about it later on Instagram Live. I'm telling myself every day, I'm appointed. I was made for this time. This is our time. This is our moment. The planet's never going to be the same. The world's never going to be the same. But we believe that that God has given us an inward constitution to endure through these days, even in the face of the brevity and fragility of life. I think we can do it. I really do.
Definitely a really encouraging message. And people, if they want to obviously support your local church, watch them online, continue to tithe and support your local church community, fact check away on your phone. But hey, if you're looking for any encouragement or an additional community, check out Churchome. It's a really cool app, and they got a lot of cool stuff. So I appreciate Judah coming on.
That was Judah Smith. Up next, another round of quarantine recommendations. This week we're doing Nostalgia Pits. Listening to On the Floor by Perfume Genius. All right, Jesse, so you and I have been trying to help people through self-isolation season by giving them some of our favorite Netflix and streaming options available they can go back to. And obviously everybody's got their own things are probably hopefully you're already binging on. But if you're looking for something new, we're trying to help you out a little bit here. So, Jesse, why don't you tell them this week we're doing this was your idea, Jesse.
Yeah.
Nostalgia. You wanted to go back to the treasure box, the old toy chest, and pull out some good corn information. So what'd you come up with?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of the Ringers series. I don't know if you guys listen to Ringer podcast with Bill Simmons and Shea Serrano and those guys. They're all brilliant. I love their podcast network. They have a show called The Rewatchables, which is a lot of fun, and they rewatch and kind of break down movies that the construct of the show is, back in the cable era, these were things that if you were flipping through the channels, right, when people still channel surfed and happened to be just on randomly one afternoon on cable, that you could jump into these movies at any point and really, for even if you only watch it for 20 minutes and be like, oh, that was great, that was so rewatchable, So two of mine are, in what I think are the Mount Rushmore of rewatchable films, in that if you turned on the television and one of these films was on at any point, you're going to sit down and you probably finish it out. Okay. The other one I picked for another reason. All three are on Netflix, so you don't have to just go surfing cable channels to find them. The first is Shawshank Redemption, which Shawshank Redemption, I'm pretty sure was on television for like on some channel at some point 99% of the time from my ages of like 16 to 28. I could turn on TV at almost any time and just jump into Shawshank Redemption on some channel. When's the last time you guys have watched Shawshank?
It has been a while,
man. Been a while.
It has been a while. It may have been like, out of college, maybe.
Yeah, probably same.
Yeah, I had my Shawshank phase in college. It's a great. It's
great.
One of the best.
It's fantastic.
But if you're okay, so if you're in college and one of the guys on the or people in the dorm are watching it and they're like halfway through and you pop in, you're probably finishing out the movie,
sitting down,
right?
For sure. I'm sitting down and watching it.
It is
absolutely
super rewatchable. It's I think critically was an underrated movie when it came out, but it has aged very well. It's a redemptive story. If people don't know, it's about a guy who's wrongfully sent to prison and how he deals with his time. There's also, I think a lot of people still don't realize this, a Stephen King adaptation, even though there's no supernatural or horror elements. It was a short story.
It was kind of a weird Stephen King adaptation.
That and Stand
By Me. The usual brand, but it's one of the best. Yeah, but it's still one of the best things Stephen King's done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would put Stand By Me in that category too. Two of Stephen King's best adaptations, but aren't really. He has a much
more like sentimental view of the world than I think he gets credit for, because the aesthetic is often so dark.
Yeah.
But he really, I think, believes in a deeply moral universe, it seems like.
And Shawshank really kind of drives that home. And it's a heartbreaking, but also a really interesting movie. Okay, the second one, this is another one. You could pop in this movie at any point. You could jump in at any scene, and there's no way you're not watching it. That's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Can you name a scene that you couldn't just turn it on and be like, I'll finish out this out? Are you guys in agreement with me? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, pretty rewatchable.
Always been good. Classic. It was good when I was a kid. It's good now.
Yeah. It's on Netflix.
And it was, in retrospect, it was definitely peak Broderick. Like we never had a better. Yeah. And he's been busy and he's been in some good stuff, but I don't think he's ever been in anything as good as Ferris.
It's irony. It's ironic. We need to get into this now, but I feel like peak Broderick and the same era of Tom Hanks, they both occupied sort of the same space, which were sort of very charismatic, witty, kind of wise guy everymen. And look, I'm not throwing shade at Matthew Broderick. I think he's done some great work later in his career, but I feel like Tom Hanks is still peaking when Broderick definitely peaked at Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's not like Hanks peaked at Big. You know what I mean? Like people still think, Big was great, but Hanks has still been, clicking upward, he's Saving Private Ryan, Castaway. I mean, you look at that catalog and he just did A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. He's still rocking. Okay. So those are two that are very rewatchable, both on Netflix. I have another one that I watched this weekend because I have a 7-year-old son and he really, really wanted to see it because he saw it on Netflix and I rewatched it. And I'm recommending it only, well, one, it was fun to kind of revisit. The movie is Space Jam. I don't think anyone realizes how weird the plot, and maybe the plot didn't seem weird when you were a kid, but when you watch it now, the plot is completely insane. Aliens, there's an alien amusement park that is suffering for business. And so the aliens hatch a plan, which is to come to Earth and to steal like sort of the souls and talent of NBA players and to use them to create an incredible basketball team, which their only chance of stopping the abduction of Michael Jordan is for Michael Jordan, along with Bugs Bunny and Bill Murray, to beat them in a game of basketball. That is the plot of the film, or else Michael Jordan will be enslaved on a foreign planet playing basketball at an amusement park. That's the plot of the film. But the reason that I want to recommend this movie is basically because of how surreal it is watching it. So I remember it's 2 weeks ago now, I was watching the NBA. There's two great games on. Luka Doncic was playing in, the home game in Dallas, and Zion Williamson was scheduled to play the late game. Now, the reason those games will be remembered forever is because, as the Dallas game was being played, you saw people across the stadium checking their phones, including Mark Cuban, because they were notified that several players on the Utah Jazz had tested positive or at least at that point, one player had tested positive for the coronavirus. Right. And in real time, these people were watching TV, were watching them get information about this virus, and they're getting information that the league is going to be shut down. So it cuts away to the late game, which, guys are about to take the court and guys are sprinting back into the locker room and fans are flooding out of the stadium. A surreal scene that I think will be remembered as sort of one of these very bizarre historical moments. Now, in Space Jam, there is a scene where the aliens sneak into the basketball stadium and they become this mist and they fly up the nostrils of certain players on the court. And those players fall ill in the middle of the game. And they get pulled off the court and everyone starts freaking out to the point where players don't want to go into the locker room because they're afraid of some virus in there. And the NBA commissioner shuts down the NBA because of concerns about a contagious virus that has infected players. And there's this huge outcry because the NBA has been canceled. Watching Space Jam and that scene and those couple scenes in light of what's happening in our world, it's just surreal. It's just surreal. And I think it puts the situation into an even more surreal context rewatching it. Also, the other thing about Space Jam, the music is fantastic. What a great soundtrack.
Those are three solid. Space Jam I haven't seen since like my 11th birthday. Yeah. I think. Which
it's
is
not as good as you remember. It's not as good.
I'm sure it's not. And that's where I wanted to start this week. I wanted to offer some guidance for a nostalgic recommendation. I want to start with something that you may have fond memories of from your childhood. I cannot encourage you enough to not revisit it because it has not aged very well, but it is on Netflix. And I popped this on thinking, I haven't watched this since I was a little kid. I wonder how it holds up. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang does not hold up. It is a stupid movie. It wastes the talent involved. Dick Van Dyke doesn't do it. It wanted to be Mary Poppins. It failed at that. You think you love the music, but you don't remember the music. You know why? Because nobody remembers the music because it's unmemorable. It is just boring, bad songs, one after the other, and a magic car that does exactly one cool thing. It flies. It comes like 3/4 of the way into the movie, and that's the end of it. And then that's the only cool part that you get out of this entire movie. So do not, for your sake and for the sake of your children, be like, I think they'll like this. I love this when I was a kid. It's not worth it. They've changed. Instead, I would encourage you for you and some of the older kids. I didn't realize this was on Netflix, but it really, I hadn't seen it in quite a while, and I'm glad I rewatched it because it really is one of the great adventure movies of all time. Raiders of the Lost Ark is still out there. And I was surprised at how much this still feels like a prototype of the modern action movie of just like really like a red-blooded adventure movie. It features Obviously Harrison Ford in it. Probably I would say Harrison Ford has at least 3 kind of defining roles, maybe 2 if you're just going to say this and Han Solo. But this one feels a little more, Indiana Jones feels a little less, he feels a little more flappable than Han Solo is. He gets easily thrown off his game and he has to react really quick. And that's sort of the fun of Raiders of the Lost Ark, because you feel like Indiana Jones is always scrambling to try to catch up with what's going on. And like he's definitely out of his element. And it works like gangbusters top to bottom. And it's hard to imagine kids, as long as the kids are old enough for it, hard to imagine this one not still playing really, really well for audiences. Another one that's definitely, this one came out in 2007, but it was one of the first movies that I remember like watching immediately and being like, that was like kind of a, I don't want to say transformative, but like a holy smokes, what am I watching movie for me is a David Fincher's Zodiac. Did you guys ever see Zodiac?
Yeah.
That's
Underrated again, underrated at the time, but now I feel like considered a masterpiece.
Right.
I think it is, and I think it's Fincher's best movie. I think it'd be easy to consider it just kind of a serial killer movie because it's about the Zodiac killer, obviously. And so obviously if you're not into true crime or movies about killers, then I can understand why you wouldn't want to be interested. But I would encourage you to maybe give it a shot anyway, because it's really not, it's about so much more than just the Zodiac killings. And it's a movie, it was an early comeback role for Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal and Mark Ruffalo also star in it. And it's a movie about obsession. It's a movie about these 3 guys based on real people who just didn't know how to let this mystery go and how it consumed their entire life. And the story of the serial killer really fades into the background, and instead it becomes a movie about these people who devote their entire lives to trying to figure out who this guy was and the way it wreaks havoc on their personal lives and their mental health and their emotional well-being, and the fallout of that. It's a really, really well done movie that does feature, obviously early on, some scenes of violence that if you struggle with that, I want to be upfront about that. Those are there. But if you can power through that, then the rest of the movie, I think it's when it stops focusing on the Zodiac killer himself and more on the people trying to figure out the mystery that it gets really, really interesting and really good. I strongly recommend that one if you're looking for if you haven't seen it, and even if you saw it a long time ago, go back and give it another shot because it's really, really good. I think for the last one, I think that I can understand that this one being a little controversial in some circles, but I do think it deserves a second shot because I think it has so much to offer. Did you guys, when you were growing up, was there any controversy in your household or your like church community around Life of Brian?
Yes.
For me, not really, because my dad loved Monty Python, and so he didn't really care. Yeah.
I think that this one got a really negative rap in a lot of Christian circles because it's a Monty Python movie that's a satire of the life of Jesus, and so I can understand some feelings of it being controversial or maybe in some cases sacrilegious. But I think the movie actually pretty deftly sidesteps those by making it very clear that this is not about Jesus himself, but this is an alternate history in which somebody different was saddled with the responsibilities of Jesus. And in doing so, ends up having some pretty clever commentary on how religion often works, especially religion in the West, in Britain and in America as well. I think that you can if you can take that and if you can be discerning in how you watch it, it's not only funny, but it does have, I think, some accurate barbs about some of the ways that religion is utilized and leveraged and monetized and exploited that are worth heeding for people who are part of the church. So Life of Brian, if you like me were not allowed to see it when you were little because of some of the content and never got around to it, I would recommend that you may take this time to check it out. You might like it.
Yeah. Good recommendations, man.
And I think that'll do it for this week's nostalgic picks. And I think actually that'll wrap it up for all of us too, right?
That's it. I think. Yeah. Covered a lot.
Man. We did cover a lot.
Another one
today.
in the books. Yeah.
Hey, many thanks to Judah Smith for taking time to talk to us and talk to all of you. You can obviously learn more about what he's doing at churchome.org. If you're looking for a church right now, if you're struggling to find a church community, Churchome does have a really great setup that was actually prepared for just a situation like this. Also, thanks to the ADRA, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. Visit adra.org/sign up to join ADRA's Every Child Everywhere in School campaign. ADRA, serving humanity so all may live as God intended. Also, make sure you check us out over at Relevant Daily. It's the podcast that happens Monday through Friday. It's 10 minutes to catch you up at the intersection of faith and culture. And I look forward to seeing you over there as well. With that, we'll wrap it up. I'm Tyler Huckabee.
I'm Clark Flippo.
I'm Jesse Carey.
Have a good, safe week, everyone. We'll see you all on Friday.
Thank you for listening to the Relevant Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Check out other shows from the Relevant Podcast Network in the podcast section at relevantmagazine.com. And while you're there, browse exclusive podcast merchandise at our online store. Make sure to subscribe to Relevant Magazine. Info is available at relevantmagazine.com/subscribe. Relevant Podcast Network.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.